there. Good afternoon, Indiana, or good evening, I guess. We just had the daylight savings a couple of weeks ago. I'm still adjusting. What time is it? 5 o'clock? It looks like midnight out there. Anyway, welcome to this very special Veterans Day edition of the Who's Left podcast. Actual, I would say, joint effort with Hold 'em Accountable podcast, and I will welcome in the host of that fine show, my lovely co-host this evening, Derrick Holder. Derrick, welcome.
Thank you. It is a pleasure co-hosting this with you. I mean, if some people don't know how far back we go, it's a year.
It isn't long, but we're
but
partners
I
in
mean,
crime, eh?
yeah, I mean we're striving to do some great things here in Indiana. So
We really are. We're working on some big stuff, and I'm glad to be in that fight with you. And I use that fight, as a metaphor. Right now, you are a veteran. That's why we're here today. We're celebrating. Is celebrate the right word, Derrick?
for
Veterans Day.
Yes.
Okay, because I obviously a lot of folks get their Veterans Day and their Memorial Day confused. Mm-hmm. Veterans Day is for all of those who have served. Memorial Day is for those who have fallen, as I understand. So one does not celebrate Memorial Day, do you? That is more of a somber and
it's
reflective
a somber
holiday.
Occasion. And please never, ever say Happy Memorial Day to a service member or a veteran, because we've all lost somebody that we know. And yeah, it's not a happy day. It's a solemn day for us. But Veterans Day
yes,
is a very happy day.
So listen, let me be honest with you here a little bit. As you are a veteran. All of our guests tonight are going to be veterans. I am not. I am. I don't think I could have done the military. I do not jive well with authority. I would have told off the guy at boot camp 2 days in, and they would have kicked me to the curb, man. But for a long time, look, I'm a leftist. I'm a progressive. I have criticism of militarism, of imperialism, and I think for the longest time I had a hard time separating those concepts from the people who actually served in uniform. And a lot of folks get in for different reasons. I don't think your average soldier, sailor, marine, or whatever enters the service to be gung-ho, go into other countries guns blazing. I don't think that's why people get in. So let me start by just asking you, before we welcome in our first guest. Charles Gill, a Navy vet, is waiting in the wings there, is going to join us here momentarily. But let me ask you, before we really jump in, what do civilians like me most misunderstand about why people enlist?
There are a multitude of reasons someone will join the military. One of the big ones is financial issues. It helps lift you out of where you were. I grew up poor, and only way that I was going to get to go to college is if I joined the military. So there's the benefits of, school, of healthcare, of a constant paycheck, usually. And it's camaraderie as well. You're looking for that place in life. Also, some people are just trying to, not go to jail. For some people, it's go to the military or go to jail. There are a lot of us, I don't want to say vast majority, but a lot of us that join because of our socioeconomic situation. The poor goes to war. That's the old adage. and the rich don't. There are those out there, especially Marines. We're a special breed. That we go
I've heard
because
that.
we
Yeah.
want to visit exotic locations, historical locations, and kill their population. I mean, that's just the Marine Corps.
Uh,
We're
what Smedley Butler quote comes to mind, right? I
oh yeah,
mean, they talk about being the hired gun of capital and going to these foreign places and doing just that. You know what? Let's bring Charles in. Let's welcome our Navy vet here to the stage today.
the
Derrick,
squid.
you're a Marine, yeah. Charles, U.S.
Oh,
Navy.
Navy, Navy.
Why did you enlist?
Well, my father was Navy. He was active drilling reservist at the time, and basically, I grew up knowing Navy my whole life. In fact, I probably knew more about that than I knew about my hometown at certain points of my uh, upbringing. I actually got into a program called the U.S. Naval Sea Cadet Corps at age 11, and went
Oh
from
wow.
age 11 to 18, and got to go through a precursor of boot camp. So basically, it was a 2 week boot camp. I actually did that twice before going into the real thing. Yes, I was glutton for punishment. I get that. I got to
Practice.
actually go to Virginia and serve on a guided missile cruiser, which I ended up serving on for 4.5 years when I went active duty. Got to go to Hawaii for 2 weeks. So there was all these different things. But in my high school career, I was not academically gifted in all areas. I was good in science, but math and I had a real disconnection. um, I had what I know now is learning disability because of my eyesight. So um, I knew college was not something I wanted. I was done with being bored in Indiana. I wanted to get out and go. So at 17, I went into delayed enlistment, and it's basically a month after graduation, I was gone. I actually turned 18 in boot camp, which that's a whole nother story we can talk about later.
Wow. So, let's Charles. I see you've got your dates of service there on the screen, and say a certain something happened right kind of smack in the middle of that. You were in the service on 9/11. What was that like?
Um, Strange, I'll say that is probably the best word I can equivalent to. So I was at I was actually on deployable shore command, which is wherever the Marines went, we ended up going over and unloading all their gear, letting them play with their toys, and then we'd pack everything up and then we'd leave. And they're sitting there grinning because yeah, they like to play with their things. But that day was pretty much started off like any other. We had PT that morning. Got back in the office, getting ready to start training a reserve unit, and then all of a sudden, hey, something's going on in New York. Plane hits, second plane hits. Oh, that's kind of weird. Then the Pentagon get nailed. That's when all, you'll pardon the expression, all hell broke loose. Phone
Oh yeah,
calls started going off, horns started going off. So we instantaneously jumped from peace to wartime ops, and at the time I was an E4, so I was still on the what they called the auxiliary security force for Yorktown Weapons Station. Um, so we had enough time to go home, grab grab whatever we didn't have already with us, and then report for duty. And I did security operations for the next 3 weeks, working 12 ons, 12 offs, standing gate security. Now, mind you, I was a cook when I was active duty, so I used to make the crack that if they had a cook manning a gun in a situation, we were screwed. Well, that is exactly what I was doing in front of the largest weapon station on the East Coast. I was the guy guarding the gate. Yeah, talk about oddity and scenario. That was just, that was one I couldn't have picked out of a bag if I tried. And then after that, I got selected to go to Bahrain for 3 months in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. So that was a really interesting op environment, to say the least. So it was weird to see the Navy go from peacetime every day, yeah, we're doing our thing, to now we're in this is what we train for all the time, and it was You read about it, you hear about it, but living it is something completely different.
Yeah. Derrick, how about you? When were you active?
98 to 2001.
Well, when in 2001?
I was actually separated, well, retired medically in November of 2001.
Hmm.
So I was out in the civvy world because I had shattered my leg, and I was actually at IUPUI when 9/11 happened. And
Oh, well.
I was like, I'm going for my degree. I'm broken. I'm useless now. I'm going to go get a degree. And I was checking my email in the library, the good old fashioned, Yahoo, popped up, and it had a live feed from New York, and I was watching it as the second plane went in. Um, and then the next day, I got orders to go to Fort Knox. I'm like, okay, this is pretty serious. They're calling me back in because
Yeah.
technically I was still active duty. I was just on the temporary disabled retirement list. So I went to Fort Knox. They did the med check or the PEB board, which is physical. Oh crap, I can't remember what the
Physical
PEB.
evaluation.
Yeah, physical evaluation board. Yeah, that's it. And they checked out my leg and all that stuff, and they were like, "Yeah, you're too broken, so we're going to retire you fully." And that's how I got out, is right after 9/11, because what I found out, they were pulling everybody in that was on temporary retired leave to see what their functionality was. If they were still able, they put them right back into service. So there was a bunch of us that actually got retired in November of 2001. So, I mean, I would have loved to have gone because, I'm a Marine. So it's like
Yes.
I'm here to do what's meant to be done.
So, today is Veterans Day. I imagine is when you most often hear "Thank you for your service." Um, what? How does that feel like performative? Does it mean anything to you? Is it like if you really wanted to honor our service, you do such and such? How do you feel about the phrase? What does it mean to you when you're in public and folks are like, "Thank you for your service"? Charles, may I ask?
I have a couple of different reactions uh, to it. Before this year, I felt like that it was an acknowledgement of um, of the oath that we take to defend the Constitution and what that significance is. Over this last year, I think sometimes it's almost kind of a slap in the face to some degree, because if we really cared for our veterans like we say we do, the last 10 months, 11 months wouldn't have occurred, in my opinion. Um, because all the things that have shredded, um, the Constitution being torn as it has, and I've told many people this time period has literally torn me at my core of who I am, because everything we fought and put our lives on the line to defend is literally being shredded and destroyed. And so there are some that truly do mean it, and sometimes you can pick up on that, but other times, if they're wearing a red cap, I have a hard time buying
What about you, Derek?
I, like most veterans, are at a complete loss on what to say when somebody says thank you for your service. It's like, you're welcome, no problem, my honor. It's like, what the hell do we say? Um, and it's usually not a problem. It's very awkward
Mhm.
for some of us to, be kind of singled out and thanked for our service. And usually, only time that I get thanked for my service is at Lowe's while I'm using the 10% discount. um, or when I'm wearing, like this time of year, when I have to wear a hoodie, my go-to hoodie is a Marine Corps hoodie. Just because it's comfortable and it's a PT hoodie, and it's my hoodie. It's worn in.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, absolutely.
so I mean, that's only time that you get it. Usually is like that, and I mean, how I see it is at some point it's performative, but there are people out there that genuinely thank you for your service. And I mean, I appreciate it. Um, I mean, I know not everybody can go into the service, be for medical issues or whatever else, or their political views or anything. But I tend to separate my military service from my politics.
Mhm.
I kind of have to do that as a Marine, because we are the more conservative branch of the armed forces. Um, so, I mean, I
Let me
have to
ask you
separate
about
the
that,
two.
Derek, because you said, like the conservative branch. This is one of the things I always struggle with. Like I was saying at the top of the show, the military is conservative coded, very much. Yet, as the more folks I talk to, especially in the political realm, and the more veterans I get to know, it's like you go in, you come out one of two ways. You're either like, you come out gung ho, like raring for war at all times, or it's like you guys are like, no, man, I like we've seen some things. We take this seriously. Like other folks shouldn't have to do this. Um, what do you make of that dichotomy? You think? How about you, Charles?
Well, I mean, it kind of depends. In my experience in the Navy, I mean, I kind of felt we were the kind of grand part of the mixing pot. I mean, I literally served on board with every many nationalities, sexual persuasions. I mean, I mean, literally anything you could really think of. We learned to to work alongside and to know that those things really didn't make a difference. I served alongside a guy from the Dominican Republic, and just he just wanted to protect and serve just like any of the rest of us, and we were all there to serve a single mission. Um, I guess it kind of depends on what your perceptions are, and what you experience. Some people can experience the worst end of the spectrum of being in theaters that present you with things that make you challenge your preconceived notions. Because you can go into the service thinking one thing, and then when you get confronted with the realities,
Yeah.
it changes. It can impact you in sometimes ways you don't really even know until much later. Um,
Yeah, I
I thought going to the Navy, I was going to be in the Navy for 20 years, and that was all, that was going to be my whole thing. And after being deployed as much as I was, I said, yeah, maybe this isn't what I want to do for the rest of whatever. Because it wears on you. I mean, it takes a toll.
was there a motivating incident, or just kind of the weight of everything that made you say, yeah, no, I'm out?
Well, I pointed back to a couple things. One, Post 9/11, things had changed. Um, in certain ways, we were going into Iraq and we were doing all that stuff. Um, and then I found out my daughter was coming, and I said I was coming up on reenlistment at that point. And I was faced with two options: go back to a ship or go overseas. Neither one of those was going to be acceptable for trying to be a part of my daughter's life when she was after she was born. So that's when I kind of made the choice to go ahead and separate.
Derrick, let me ask you. Obviously, that choice was made for you. You didn't get to pick when you exited the service, as it were. But what you were already making that transition back to civilian life, right? What most surprised you about that transition? Oh, hey, we've got another vet joining us there in the chat there. And if it's okay, I'm gonna let Blythe Potter in. There is Blythe Potter. Hello.
Hi.
I know you've got time constraints, so we can finish talking about our stuff here after you got to go. But let's hear. Blythe, what was your motivation? When did you sign up? Was it right out of school? Were you 18, fresh out of high school? And no?
No, my parents and my boyfriend at the time were very much against it. So I didn't. I was dissuaded from joining, which ended up okay because I was looking at the guard and being admin, and I would have hated that. So I didn't enlist until after my sophomore year of college in 2002, October 28th, 2002. Shortly after, obviously, 9/11, which you guys were just talking about. And I went to the military police corps because both of my brothers at the time were MPs. So we were all very, very briefly in the same unit.
Wow.
Oh, wow. That's probably don't see that a whole heck of a lot. So yeah, I mean, it's not like a lot of folks, as I remember, rushed to join, volunteered to serve in the wake of 9/11. Was that very much you? You were like, affected by that day, and you wanted to get in and do your part?
It was a small part of it. I continued to want to. I really didn't want to go to college, and I was really encouraged to go to college. I went to Ball State for 4 years after high school, and it just wasn't. It was not where I wanted to be. It was miserable. I had some severe mental health issues with it. Like, I just didn't want to be there. I was unhappy. So part of it was that. Part of it was to prove it to myself and my family and my friends. But also I needed some excitement and discipline in my life, and that was a really good way to do it.
You don't think of those two things as going hand in hand, excitement and discipline. Can you I don't know, break that down for me a little bit?
Well, I had two stepsisters join the military after high school, and both of my brothers, it was all okay for them to do it. But, me being the oldest sibling for some reason a problem. But you hear these stories from basic training, which were like quite fun. You get to go through obstacle courses, you go on ruck marches, you're battling, your hand-to-hand combat. And we grew up with weapons in our house. We used to shoot trap and a whole bunch of other things. So it was interesting. And also being a police officer interested me as well. And that was like military style. So garrison, corrections, like I'm trying to think of the non-jail detention centers. Trying to say it the way that is not military slang because it's bad.
The brig.
Yeah.
We all know the brig. Even civilian Scott knows of the brig.
Well, that is not the word I was looking for, but yes. So there's a lot of different things to it, but also I was able to do my basic training in AIT between semesters. So I could do it all in one summer and still go back to college afterwards. So that was a small part of that too.
So you had an unusual journey. I would say.
Yes.
You know, a lot of folks do not do college first. A lot of folks, you know, certainly like Derrick was explaining, use the GI Bill. You enter the service to pay for college.
I had very little GI Bill. In fact, I got $6,000. That was it for my entire contract because they did not have space for me in the unit I wanted. But because my brothers were there and the recruiter had basically recruited my entire family, he pulled some strings to get me in. So, you know, I paid off my student loans while I was in Iraq, but I did not enlist specifically for those benefits. Well, I ended up getting post 9/11 GI Bill, which did end up finishing my bachelor's and my master's degrees, but that was 20 years after the fact almost.
Yeah, like you weren't thinking about that at the time.
No, I just needed to do something that wasn't like, I was a dance major, so like ballet, tap, point shoe. I literally turned in my point shoes for combat boots. And it was a good experience. There are things I wish that I didn't do or hadn't done or didn't experience, but it certainly has molded me to the person I am today.
Do you care to elaborate, if you're comfortable doing so?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I grew up in most of you know, probably even anyone watching knows, I grew up in a very Republican conservative family. So that was a part of the reason of joining too. And then I had that mentality through most of my service. And, you know, coming home, I had 90 days to find my own insurance. And I'm like, oh my God, I was just in Iraq and now I don't even get benefits. That's a slap in the fucking face. And so that really was the eye opener for me. Like, my life was not valuable enough to even have health insurance after serving my country. And that is not largely a Republican talking point, right? Is, oh, let's take care of our troops and, you know, give them lifetime benefits, which, you know, now I believe everyone should have health insurance as a right. Yeah, babe. Yes. No. Sorry, my daughter's in the car. Michael's traveling tonight, so
yeah.
that's a baby. But just the sexism, and even my own way of looking at things too, like treating people as unworthy of the same benefits that I expected I should have because I was in the military. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah.
Well, Derrick's story was we were about to talk to that, like, you know, the transition to civilian life after you get out, you know, this almost hero worship that we at least talk about in the popular culture, the way we treat our military, at least the way we talk about we treat our military, and then you know, contrast that with the slap in the face when you're transitioning to civilian life, and it's like, all right, you got 90 days. Get on with it.
Yeah. It took me a good solid, probably 15 or almost 20 years. I mean, I feel like I'm still transitioning in some regards because now being in politics, people want to thank me for my service, but I consider what we're doing now, all of us, a service to our country. Anyone, particularly in Indiana, who's willing to be like, okay, we're going to jump into politics to fix this, because in Indiana, that means we have to literally be Democrats or lean left or be progressive, the opposite of what the expectation here is. I enlisted intentionally. I got paid to be there. It paid off all of my student loans. It helped pay for my bachelor's, my master's. And now, you know, there's disability involved, and that is a very small form of income. So but taking that oath and honoring that service and knowing what the military could be, you know, not as sexist, not as discriminatory, get rid of the don't ask, don't tell, don't treat people like garbage just because you're in the military. I think we have a good opportunity here as veterans to kind of mold the future of the military and veterans, as well as, no, we haven't, as well as the rest of the state. So it's a hard transition.
Yeah. And listen, for all of the left's criticism of the military industrial complex, the Department of Defense, at least before old Drinky Pete came along, was in fact remarkably woke. Is that? I
Yes.
mean,
Yes,
Derek,
it was.
am I wrong? Yeah.
The thing about the military is it's a microcosm of
Can I say hi?
society. So a lot of things happen in the military before they happen in the general public. The integration of the services, back in the, what was it, 50s?
That was Truman. That was
Yeah.
I want to say
Okay,
48. Yeah.
The integration was before the civil rights bills got passed. Don't ask, don't tell was repealed
Yeah.
before gay marriage was allowed.
I'm going to jump off
So-
here. I'm in Hendricks County, but I love you all. Thank you all for everything. I appreciate you, and I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Thank you, Blythe.
Bye.
Best of luck out there tonight.
Take care.
But yeah, I mean, so it's a microcosm of society, and a lot of people try to say the military is not the testing grounds for, societal ills, but it really is. A lot of things happen in the military before it happens in the greater civilian world. And I think it's because the military strives to fight as one united force. And you can't be a united force with division. I know it sounds simple, but there's a lot of people out there that are going, no, we must have this divided or whatever. And I mean, hell, the Marine Corps just integrated basic training between males and females. Freaking, what was it? Within the last 5 to 10 years, they just integrated male and female basic training. When I went to basic in San Diego, it was men only. Paris Island, it was male and female, but there was a hard split between where the females were and the males were. And now it's more integrated. But what I've learned by, talking to, those who are currently in and went to basic after the integration, you don't look at the females on during recruit training. Don't even move your eyes towards a female, because some things will happen to you. I was in before the kinder gentler basic training. We can go into those details later. They were fun. But yeah, I mean, back to, the main thing was, yeah, military is a microcosm. It affects change in the greater society.
Yeah, and certainly you mentioned, the racial integration in the 40s. You mentioned don't ask, don't tell, and now we look at it as archaic, but in its time it was sort of progress. It's like, okay, we'll let you serve, just don't talk about it. I guess that's better than, we're gonna play smear the queer, right? So, and even we look at climate change. The Department of Defense, for their part, one of the biggest contributors to climate change over the last 150 years, but also a part of the government that takes this thing very seriously as a national security threat. Weird, again, that the conservative coded military, right, engages in such wokery, as acknowledging the reality of climate change as a national security threat. Charles, what do you feel like is what do you think? What do you want folks like me to understand about like the gap between the military rhetoric, the bravado, the machismo in many cases, and the reality of service?
How much time do we have? Uh, so, wow, that okay. So I've seen. I'll say this: serving on board a Navy ship. Okay, you can act as tough as you want to think you are until you are underway for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, operating. Prime example: when we were in the Persian Gulf. Okay, that is a very unique operational environment, especially for for any naval vessel. But for us, we were part of our primary duty was protecting the carrier. So we took care of every theater defense. If something happened in wherever we'd launch missiles and stuff, all that kind of good stuff. But our primary purpose was to get hit instead of the carrier. They literally told us that when we moved in theater. So you can act as
I don't want that
you can act as
job.
tough as you want, but when you realize that you are literally floating around with the world's biggest target painted on you, I don't care how tough you are, that changes your whole perception. And the other thing is that you know there's guys that like to think they're tough and can do all this stuff on their own, but I can tell you on board ship you depend on the people that are on that unit in that ship in your division. I mean and that is your family for however long that deployment or operational environment is. When we had everybody on board, I had 385 people on board our ship. Okay, which sounds like a lot, but when you compare it to a carrier of 5 or 6 thousand, it dropped in a bucket. But with me working in food service, we were literally the heart and soul of the ship. I mean, if we had a bad day, B ship had a horrible day. If we weren't on our game, it just was not a good deal. So we had to be the morale center for the whole thing. So knowing customer service, talking with people, you really become part of each other's lives. In that camaraderie, as Derek was pointing out, becomes vital because without that connection, you uh, can develop other issues. I had a shipmate that
Yeah.
got a letter from his fiance back home, basically telling him she was leaving him. And uh, well, this gets into a very long and depth story, but needless to say, he kind of lost it and locked himself in a fan room. And they thought he went over the side. And we actually did the whole man overboard drill, tried to find him. They actually declared him dead for a while until they pulled back into port, did one more search of the ship, and actually found him in a fan room, almost dead. But they ended up finding him, getting him transported off. But the psychology that the little things can play is enormous. So people, we're out there to do a job, yes, but we are still human at our very centers. So those emotional strains do wear on guys, wear on any of us. And so you become dependent and I can tell you honestly from my experience, it does not matter religion, it doesn't matter color of skin, it doesn't matter any of that. I sat with many shipmates that were Muslim, Jewish, um, Christian, pagan, you name it. And all of that didn't make a hell of beans because we were there for each other. And I think if anything to be drawn out of that, there's something to be drawn from that into our greater society to remember we're all Americans, right? We could take it and see our better selves in each other and draw strength from that instead of, like Derek was saying, instead of these artificial dividers that everybody wants to put up in place of these things. We just
Yeah,
have to
see,
be willing to take the steps.
in the Marine Corps, we were taught from day one there is no black, there is no brown, there is no white. We are all green. You're light green, dark green, green, but we're all green.
Mhm.
Um, we were told immediately that racism would be dealt with violently. I do remember one episode while in basic that junior DI, gut punched someone because they used the N-word. And he just came up and just gut punched him. And so we do not do that here. And it was a white guy, Marine, and it happened. So I mean, it was very, very much told that we don't do that crap there. So
you guys both point to something. For all the talk of, I remember Pete Hegseth prancing around on stage a few months ago. I think both of you guys were on the show the week after this happened, talking about the warrior ethos and all that crap, and making it sound like this strong individual warrior. I'm imagining like Russell Crowe in 300, and there's like one guy taking on the whole world, and it's not like that, right? You're both speaking of like interdependence and relying on each other like on a human level.
Well, see, in the Marines, it wasn't taught as that. It was taught as we are one unit. There is no self. You are here to serve the greater good of the unit. In basic training, we could not say I. It was this recruit. If you said I, you would get a finger up in your face and asking which I. So
at a minimum.
Yeah, so it was this recruit request. This recruit is here to, answers your summons or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't. See, the Army had Army of One. Every Marine on the planet looked at it and went, "What? No, you can't be an Army of One. You have to be a cohesive unit." Because the person to the right and to the left, they're who you depend on. If one person slips up on your flank, you're going to be shot. In the Marine Corps, the ethos is we are the modern day Spartans. We are here to defend this country against everything. And only we, the Marine Corps, have the ability to do it. There is a great saying out there that there's only two branches in the armed forces. You have the Army and you have the Navy. The Air Force is a corporation and the Marine Corps is a cult. And yes, very much so. Marine Corps is a cult. I mean, I don't know how it gets ingrained into you so much. But once a Marine, always a Marine, for one thing. We can still technically, as retirees, be held to the UCMJ, the Code of Military Justice, as a retiree. So, and that was put through a commandant 2 commandants ago. So
let me ask you about that, Derrick. I got a question over on Facebook here. David Kirk asks, how do you all feel about the commander-in-chief being a convicted felon? And I sort of want to maybe not ask that exact question, but you brought up the UCMJ. And how do you, when you guys were on the show several weeks ago talking about Hegseth and that dog and pony show that he and Trump put on there in Northern Virginia. But we did talk about, the way the administration is putting troops in the streets, talking about active duty troops. And, that leads you to a place where folks may be put in a position where they're going to have to do something that is a violation of the UCMJ. So, I guess David asks, how do you feel about the president being a felon? Well, how do you feel about the president, the commander-in-chief of the United States Armed Forces, being a walking constitutional violation? And I guess let me ask you that, Charles.
Sorry, I had to suppress my inner sailor there for a minute because it was about to come out with a whole litany of different things there. So first off, the only thing I can actually put to this is how. How did we, as a nation, allow that to occur? Does not compute in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So it automatically sets up the question: if he's already, if this person has already been convicted of so many felonies, in a criminal conviction and all this stuff, then that begs the question: does the orders he give, then are they inherently lawful or unlawful? And so when we talk about the UCM, we talk about the UCMJ, it specifically makes a delineation between lawful orders and unlawful orders. Okay. You are required to follow lawful orders. And what makes an order lawful is it in compliance with the Constitution? Is it in compliance with regulations and laws and da 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 and all these things? If it checks all those boxes, yes, you are legally required to follow that order. If it does not, then you are legally required not to follow that order. And yes, it is a hard series of choices that the service member has to make. But the service member has to make, that's part of that incumbency of that oath of responsibility of following the orders of the commander in chief and those appointed over us. Yes, I will follow the lawful orders of those appointed over me. However, if they are unlawful orders, I will not follow that order. And that is a very basic ethical standard to have for any service member. And I do believe that we are seeing that playing out in some real time. But to the basic question, how do I feel about a commander in chief that's a convicted felon? I think it's an absolute affront to everything that we stand for. Just bar none. I don't have a better way to say it. It is absolutely. Yeah. I'm sorry, I lost the word because again, my inner sailor is struggling to pop out here, so I'm trying to keep a cap on it.
Well, like
Derrick,
Charles was talking about, I believe that's Article 92 to 96, I believe. But when we were both early in our careers, who was the president? President was Bill Clinton. Technically, he should have got an Article 15 in the USMJ or UCMJ because of infidelity. That's an Article 15 offense. And that was discussed quite a bit back then. So
quaint in retrospect, isn't it?
When all we had to worry about is what happened in the Oval Office. Yeah. But
if only,
I mean,
right?
we discussed it back then about what level of military justice is the president, the commander in chief, held to. I do not believe that question has been fully ever answered. Because to be a commander in chief, you should be held to the same litmus test as everyone in the military.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you have control
if not, I hire one, right?
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly. And if you are, and I'm going to chest beat and flag wave here.
Go for it.
If you control the most powerful military in the history of the world, you better be held to higher standards. You have the ability to destroy the world 15 times over. And that's just with the Marine Corps. But I mean,
Well, look at what we have in our strategic defense
Well, yeah.
rosters. I mean, literally at any one given time, and anywhere in the ocean, there are ships out there that carry deterrent capability, and they are there for that expressed reason. If the call comes in, those birds fly.
Yep.
That's their
And they're
express purpose
parked
in life.
in very important areas.
Yeah, and we're not talking about Venezuela either. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that was out loud. My bad. But yeah, no, I mean, but I think you hit on something. I think that's something we as a society have not done well with yet. And to hold our president, our commander in chief, to the highest level of expectation of leadership, because as a leader, and whether it's in the military or in the civilian world, if you are one of these folks that do as I say, not as I do, you're a POS person, right? You're supposed to set the example. You're supposed to lead that ethical standard and legal standard. Look at all the officers okay, with some exceptions, I'm going to say in generalized here. Most officers you serve under are trained all throughout their their basic their OCS training of the ethics, the code, the laws, what you are held to. I mean, they are held to those they're held to those higher standards, and they instill those in us or in their commands. Um, that's part of their responsibility as leaders. In fact, the first lesson I ever had with that was when I reported on board my ship and I met my first command master chief. I'd never met a command master chief like this cat before. He was as by the book, quite literally, as you could get. He said, "These are the regs. These are the rules. This is what I expect. You will adhere to it." Roger that, chief. No sweat. And he lived up to it every day. I mean, he held the standard. And even the XO popped tall when he walked by. I mean, and that's a guy that's a commander who outranks him 4 times over. And he says, "Yep, nope, command master chief says it. We're rolling with it." But that's that level of
Yeah.
expectation.
When we talked about the UCMJ and having to being obligated to disobey illegal orders, and you'd like to think that that wouldn't come down on individual service members to make those decisions, that you would have proper leaders, folks up the chain of command in place that would prevent those illegal orders from getting down to individual service members. If you think like somebody like Mark Milley, and again, my entire adult life, I've been wary of the entire military industrial complex. But in 2020, when you see a guy like Milley standing up to Trump, when even like Mattis, who was kind of an out there reckless dude in many ways, yet
And
when it
do
came down to
not
it,
foul mouth the patron god of chaos,
I do not know the patron god of chaos.
Matus. Mad Dog Matus.
Okay, yeah. So, like, these folks stood up to the commander in chief. They told him no. Like, I think it was Mattis that pushed back when Trump was like, well, I want my generals to be really loyal, just like Hitler's. And Mattis was like, they tried to kill him on several occasions, right? And you think like Milley in 2020, Trump, hey, just shoot the protesters in the legs. He's like, sir, no, we don't do that. I want to ask both of you guys, are there any of those guys left?
I would like to believe so, yes, because I cannot accept that those folks are gone yet. I have to believe. I have to give, because to accept that fact that those folks are not there, that means we've lost the soul of who we are. I can't get there yet. Just realistically, I think our service members are right now struggling with some of the most extraordinary circumstances they've ever had to experience, from the top levels to the most basic recruit and still in recruit training. This is I mean, we hear this word unprecedented oftentimes, and it starts to lose its luster after a period of time. But I don't know of another time in our history, at least in the United States history, that this has ever been at this point, where it could be at a tipping point very soon of, does the military actually take the stance against the civilian populace or not? I don't feel that the military will. I think their training, I think the UCLJ, I think all the training and courses we go through will kick in and say, absolutely not. We will not do this. I have
We
to believe that.
we sort of talked about this several weeks ago when you were on with us last. I wanted to ask Derrick, we talk about defending our freedom, right? And all right, here, let me get spicy. Let me get a little controversial. I contend, that the United States military hasn't actually fought for our freedom since World War II. So I have a hard time, like, when that phrase is used. But now, the actual real threat to American freedom, it looks like, is coming from inside the house. How do we square that circle?
So when it comes to, fighting for our freedom, it feels very forced to say, fighting in Iraq was for our safety. Fighting in Afghanistan was in our safety. But there are people out there that truly believe that they were going to kill more Americans. And I don't believe they were. Me personally, I don't think we deserve, or not deserve, I don't think we should have been in Iraq whatsoever. Afghanistan, I understand why we were there. Even our raids into Pakistan, I understand why we were there. But the stuff going on with Venezuela and everything else, like, when did oil become the switch for freedom? Because when they say fighting for our freedom, Iraq was about oil. Venezuela is about oil. So
Fighting for our freedom to drive the largest cars imaginable with
exactly.
gas that's subsidized to be cheaper than anywhere else in the world. That part at the end there is silent.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
mean, when it comes to the original question about, where does it take us within our own borders? I do believe the military, and I have to believe this because there's nowhere in my mind or my heart that will believe that an entire unit, military unit, will turn their M4s against civilians. I just do not see that happening. In my heart of hearts, I cannot believe that will happen. Because the moment that happens, this country's gone. I mean, it'll become the new Lexington and Concord.
And I can tell you where the freedoms, where the switch flipped, to your original point about where oil drove it. is when human greed took the driver's seat. And what, that honestly, when it became a tool of, fighting for resources, that's where, and it really became about who could accumulate the most money in the most places. And I'm going to tell you, something that's even going to be more scary is going to be, okay, after oil, what's the next natural resource that wars are going to be fought over? I'm here
Lithium.
to tell you. Well,
Fresh
right.
drinking water.
There's that exactly. Drinking water will be and so in my everyday life, I run the drinking water system for a city, and I can tell you right now that is going to be the next major conundrum after oil, guaranteed. And actually, in some regards, it already is.
Well, yeah, the Maleficent Seven, the big AI companies are drinking it all. It certainly seems.
Absolutely.
So, listen, Derrick put something in our notes here. He's talking about brotherhood and how the veterans of the different branches can, you guys criticize each other. Talk shit about the other branches playfully, I assume, but we'll defend all of them against civilians. Like, I want to make sure, am I good? I'm not out of pocket, am I? I'm asking kind of pointed questions here. So I just want to make sure I'm all right with you guys. So Charles, you talked about sort of the emotional reliance on others and going through. Did Derrick say with you? You talked about going through basic and being broken down and molded into a team, right? With the advent of like drone warfare and stuff like we have now, and it's very mechanized and impersonal. Do we lose that human element? You don't think of like the human element of militarism, but what do we lose with things being so impersonal and removed and like the fighting, used to have to like, hand-to-hand combat with a guy and then you could, lob a missile, and now it's like a drone. You don't even have to like put yourself in any physical danger. What's lost? Am I reminiscing about hand-to-hand combat? What am I doing?
I think there's I guess the easiest way, there's a couple ways I could go about this. So I'm going to try to do this without losing myself. The threat environment changes all the time. So we're having to meet threats we have to meet it where it exists. So right now it's in uh, drones, unmanned vehicles. There's all this kind of good stuff. But what is driving all that stuff behind it? I mean, that's still human ingenuity. There's still human teams that are having to care for that equipment. There's still the programming and the expertise of what to do with all that gear, the weaponry that goes onto these things. And so there's a mass of humanity that still has to be supportive of those vehicles, even in that theater. Um, Now, what I can say to the point of being removed from the physicality of warfare. So I was on, when I was on board ship, okay, I didn't do the, in your face or, Derek, please don't take offense to this concept, but I didn't do the ground pounding stuff. Okay. I was not boots on the ground. I didn't, up until my second command, I didn't wear camis. I mean, I was in coveralls and well, combat boots, whatever you want to call them. Boondockers is what we used to call them way back in the day. Yes, I am that old. Anyway, but on board ship, we would, one of our primary roles was throwing missiles at whatever target land base that we would have to. We were in the Persian Gulf. There was times where we would be spun up to say, "Hey, we need to be ready to shoot at XYZ wherever." And the spin up to doing all that on board ship, there's people that are programming the missiles. They're doing all. I mean, there's a myriad of stuff that goes on before that hatch opens and the bird flies. The series of checks and everything else, and then there's the after effect. So yes, you're removed from it, but you still know that we are there in a theater that human life is at risk. So you can't ever truly be separated from humanity in that respect. You have to have a fundamental respect for that responsibility because you're operating a multi-billion-dollar piece of equipment that is designed for a singular purpose to go forth and fight what on whatever front has to be fought and know that, and this is the part that people sometimes lose track of, that when we got underway, you had to accept that reality. You may not come back. And that is, I don't know of a more human condition to come to grips with. I
I mean,
hope I
when
didn't lose
you're
that. Yeah.
18 and you have to write your own will,
Yeah,
that
that's
sticks
real.
with you for the rest of your life.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
And to go along with what Scott asked, the AI and the drones and everything, not every branch subscribes to that.
Right.
Marine Corps is still hand on hand or hand to hand. Yes, the Marine Corps does deploy drones, but they're not the Reaper drones or the Predators. They're, terrain drones. They're recon drones, just to see what's over the next hill, what's in that valley. So Marines know, hey, this is what's going on. This is what we're going to come up against. Gone are the days of just happening upon your enemy. You know where everybody is on the battlefield now. So I mean, it depends on the branch. Marines, the infantry portion of the army, are still very much hand to hand, um, almost literally in some cases. Um, yeah, bad memory there. Real, um, but I mean, when we say hand to hand, we're talking, you know, quarter mile away, firing M4s, M16A2s. My favorite was the Javelin and the TOW systems. Um, I was a super grunt. I was infantry assaultman. So we played with every weapon in the Marine Corps arsenal. Um, so it was, I got on top of the Humvee with the Madus and, the M50 and all that stuff. So, oh, the memories.
Yeah, you
It,
got to play with all the fun toys.
Oh, yeah.
you know what is? I mean, let me ask about that. Is that is that an enticement for young men to go play with fun toys? Does it make it? Are we luring young vulnerable people to their deaths with the prospect of explosions?
Why? When you can just go to the store and pick one up. I mean,
Oh, that's
you can
right.
pick up an AR-15,
Well,
which
yes.
is very similar to the M4. I mean, you can get an AK-47. You can even buy a Barrett 50 caliber sniper rifle. Why does a civilian need an 50 caliber Barrett sniper rifle? Those things were meant to take out engines on vehicles. Um, and plus, it's kind of hard to find depleted uranium rounds in the
Right?
civilian world.
Kind of a
But I
specialty
mean,
market.
yeah, they're on the market somewhere.
I got a whole
Um,
bunch out back. I don't know what you're talking about. No. Uh,
But to your point, Scott, I mean, I'd be lying to say that, you know, there's most of us, or I can say it for myself and Derek when we were growing up. I mean, we played Army, we played, Cowboys and Indians and all that stuff. So American culture kind of is ensconced with the idea of a relationship with firearms almost from Jump Street if you are uh, born male or at least male presenting anyway. So there's, you know, yeah, it's kind of drilled in from beginning. Now the question becomes in that initial introduction of these things, are you taught responsibility or are you taught carelessness? Are you taught respect for that firearm or are you not? I came from a long, my dad was Navy. My grandfather was Army. He was an Army MP in World War II. My uncle was a state trooper, Indiana State Trooper for many years. So trust me, there was no lack of you handle a weapon this way in this fashion. You do not, all the things, never pointed at something you don't intend to kill and those kind of things. So now, do I think that is missing in a lot of areas? Yes, because we've become so dehumanized to the impact of these things, and you get so tied up in these odd discussions that you know with the 2A conversation and all this. And look, I am not against I'm not against firearms in their most basic premise, as long as they are handled, taught, and kept properly. You have a license. I firmly believe there should be a license to carry a firearm, just like we have license to drive a car. To me, there's little to no difference. In the military, we go through cert after cert after cert after cert. I mean, quals, repeated quals. They don't just give you a gun and say, "Here, go have fun." Yeah, you have to know how to disassemble that weapon. You have to learn how to maintenance that weapon. You have to learn how to load that weapon. And God help you, you don't put the right thing in the right place at the right time, or you did not do the right step, because you will break it down and repeat said until your hands literally cannot be felt. And not that I'm speaking from experience, but I'm just saying.
At
there were
times, your fingertips will bleed.
Yeah, or if you're stupid and drop the weapon, which
Oh, good God.
yeah, no, that
That just
I
brought
will
back
get.
flashbacks. Why'd you do that, Charles? I didn't
Sorry,
do it
brother.
personally, but I know people that did in basic. And
Yep. Okay.
geez.
Great Lakes, July. It was hot. Okay, that was my whole thing. The thing just literally slipped right out of my hand, and the second it hit the deck, I'm like, I'm dead. I'm
Oh,
literally
yeah.
dead.
And it's always when it's complete silent.
Oh yeah, it echoed through the whole drill hall. It was like every head
It fell in slow
automatically turned.
motion. Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of like, this is it. This is where I bite it. I don't even get out to
Yeah.
the fleet. I'm going to buy it right here.
You guys, you're talking about becoming acquainted with the individual tools of war. Guns and bigger guns and bigger still guns. But let me sort of pose to you a question asked by a fellow Hoosier veteran, and that's Pete Buttigieg. So, he talks about universal service, and maybe it's the military, maybe it's the Peace Corps, maybe it's a climate corps or something like that. And so our young folks out of school, they go into whatever branch, whatever path it is toward serving our country. Maybe having more folks out there who actually knew how to use these 400 million weapons that are on our streets would help us in a certain way, inculcate a certain amount of respect for these machines, but also like the machines of team building, the machines of government, of democracy, and just like understanding that's being a civilian, being a citizen of this country, and contributing in some way. Now, listen, most of my life I would have been like, dude, you can't like make people do that. But I, I don't know. I'm willing to reconsider this idea, I suppose. What do you folks think about that?
Unequivocally, yes. I have believed for the longest time that we should have mandatory service of some sort. Doesn't have to be military, but it could be Peace Corps, it could be Job Corps, it could be
Habitat for Humanity.
anything that gives back to society.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
have, for the longest time, believed that. I mean, even since I was a little shithead running around, streets of Eastside Indy as a kid, it's like, yes, I do believe that.
What do you think would be the biggest positive from that? Besides obviously the work being done, but is it social cohesion?
I
It
think that,
teaches our young people to work as a team,
Mhm.
to understand other people of other cultures. Because there are many people that, never see someone from another culture. And that's scary to know that somebody can grow up their entire lives and not see someone of a different pigment of skin.
Mhm.
It's like, how the hell did you grow up like that? But yeah, it teaches them how to work with other people, how to think about other people's needs before your own, and what service actually is, and to be held accountable. Not to plug my own show, but yeah, to hold them accountable.
No, I mean it's very fair, Derek. Because I mean, when you think about it, what is one of the most common things you hear is that nobody cares about what somebody else does, or nobody cares about what's going on, or this or that. So I think that if they're engaged in um, you know serving in their local parks, or serving on some local city board or council, or township or something along those lines, where you learn the basic fundamental building blocks of our democracy from the most local level on up. That you learn that democracy is not just a word you toss around. It actually means in service to others. I mean, that is the grand experiment that we were enshrined to think about, was and we've not always done it really well. I mean, let's face it, we've had a lot of our stumbling blocks, but we know how to do it. We just have to find a way to do it to where it is not a red or blue, left or right, whatever variation is, east side of Indy, left side of Indy, or Hancock County versus Johnson County. It needs to be, and this is something I firmly believe, and I've said this in so many different circles, that we have to, as a whole, come together and remember we are all living in the same area, the same space. We have the same finite amount of resources, and we have to figure out how to live with each other in a way that is productive, and not focus on, oh, well, you're different. I'm scared of that. Oh, differences are what makes us interesting. I mean, good God. I mean, if we were all the same, what would be the point? But
The food would be
that
terrible.
serves to others is a good thing. What's that?
So the food would be terrible.
Oh, absolutely.
I am all for yes, increasing the diversity in society, just because I like to eat different things. I'm completely selfish about it.
You're not just saying that
But
because you got a cook on your show, right? I'm just saying.
hey, yeah. I mean, no, probably wasn't a whole lot of spicy on the boat, was there?
Well, it depends. There were some nights where, um, well, depends on who was cooking. So, I mean, but we would have, like, I had my right before I got off the ship, we actually had a Filipino senior chief, and we had a Filipino first class, and they literally took over the galley one night and kicked us all out and said, "We're cooking," and they commenced to cooking the whole. I mean, just going to town with all good stuff. I mean,
I
now
can
I can
taste
only
the
eat
lumpia
maybe
right now.
right. The lumpia was the one thing I could eat. Now, after that, that was where Chuck kind of had to draw the line on a few things. I did learn never to let a Cajun ever serve you jambalaya. At least if you want to retain your taste buds for like the next 2 weeks. I'm just saying, have to put that out there. But it was always interesting. There was always a wide variety of we cooked all kinds of different stuff, and that was again one of the fun parts about being in the military. You had everything from traditional breakfast items to regional stuff that we try out as per the cycle. So I mean, it's just
Yeah, see,
you never you get to do different things.
just destroying stereotypes I had. I just shit on a shingle for every meal.
Oh, I love
Oh,
SOS.
don't get deluded. It was there. Trust me that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the little bit of time that I was on float was
Mhm.
on the USS Kearsarge.
Oh, the Cure Sarge. I'm so sorry.
lo-
I'm sorry.
um, but that was some of the best food that I had during my deployment
Hmm.
because, when we got into the field after they offloaded us, thank you, Uber, have a great one. After we made landing in, um, well, it was in Croatia. We went into Serbia and
Hmm.
Kosovo. Um, I mean, yeah, we had Burger King, we had McDonald's, um, we had Subway, but the lines were horrible. For one, two, you can only eat so many MREs. Um, I mean, the trading just to get the chili mac was horrible because that and the beef stew. Those were my two favorites. Um,
Yeah. The tetrazzini was always kind of an interesting one.
yeah, you always knew who would trade you for the Tabasco sauce.
Absolutely.
Um, and there were actual they turned into chefs later on after military service, but they would take these MREs that the entire platoon or even squad had and turn it into a gourmet meal. Like they would mix ingredients together and it's like, oh my god. Um, but I mean, yeah, there's a reason the Navy cooks for the president. I mean,
That's
because
true. That's
they
true.
have some of the greatest cooks. Um,
Yep.
but
Yep. In fact, I had
yeah,
one
I
of my
mean,
shipmates went on to cook for President Obama. Actually.
yeah. So I mean, there's perks to being president. Being guarded 24/7 by Marines, eating Navy chow, flying the Air
Well,
Force's planes.
now look, I will say, as great as we were doing what we do, the Air Force does on their
Oh
installations
my
on
god.
their bases, they do have us beat. I mean, let's
Oh
just
yeah.
look. I can't compete with that. They have the whole gourmet thing.
Oh yeah.
They have the best rec facilities. Yeah, in fact, when I did my A school at Lackland Air Force Base, I got there and I'm like, oh, I screwed up. I screwed up.
Imagine being a
Oh,
Marine coming from Camp Lejeune going
oh
to
no,
an Air Force
nope.
base. One
I
thing
can
I can
imagine
Space
say,
that.
Force
the
gets
weather was
nothing but the
better.
dehydrated ice cream, right?
No, that's Space Force.
So, all right. Well, I
Sorry.
don't want to like bum you guys out, but I do need to ask about, the let's say oftentimes poor care we give our veterans, after they come back, after they leave the service and enter civilian life. And, listen, again, as a progressive, as a leftist, I'm like, hey, man, everybody should have housing. It should be a human right. But it is most galling, I think, that we have homeless veterans. Nobody should be homeless, but veterans should especially not be homeless. How does this happen, Derrick?
It's a system that chews you up and spits you out. As soon as you are not of use, they do not care about you anymore. Um, and when it comes to like homeless veterans. It's not just because we have more prevalence to mental health issues. You can't tell me that there is a single veteran in America that doesn't have some sort of PTSD or anxiety disorder or anything like that. Because, you're in a high stress environment all the time. You're going to get anxiety about stuff. You're going to get PTSD about stuff. But you're really not taught how to handle money. You're not taught how to pay bills. You are taught to do your one job, and depending on what your MOS was or your job, military job, your rating, your billet, whatever branch calls it, whatever, you are taught for that. Not all of us had a job in the military that has civilian use. Like, I cannot apply somewhere to fire a tether operated missile. I mean, or a javelin weapon system. I cannot apply anywhere to use those. So that's where the back end services can be better. Here's everything that you have the opportunity to apply for to help your transition easier. Go to the VA. Now, a lot of battalions do this really well.
You said battalions. I thought you said Italians. I'm like,
No.
is that okay?
Yeah, a lot of battalions.
A lot of battalions do this really well. Okay, that's not a left field.
They do it really well, where they actually have classes of, so basically, so you're about to separate. This is what you do, and they take you through a class of everything you're entitled to, everything you should apply for, and they tell you, make sure your last med visit, you have every issue that you have ever gotten while in the military to be noted down to make it easier with the VA process. But not every unit.
But they're doing this on a battalion by battalion level. There's no like broad, service wide program for veterans as they're exiting.
On the CO. It depends on the commanding officer. And in that, it depends on the XO as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they can put out a service-wide. And when I say service, I mean each branch of the military wide memorandum to, this is what bare minimum we must do before separation occurs. But each unit will have their own, their own style, their own flair. That's what makes military actually pretty interesting, is you can go from unit to unit, and it's a completely different culture.
Yeah, I thought
because it all depends on the XO and the
uniform.
I mean, in general brushstrokes, it's uniform.
Right.
I mean, the 24th MEU is going to operate different than the 31st MEU.
Mm-hmm.
Just for the reason that the 24th is more Mediterranean based, where the 31st is East Asia based. So, I mean, each one's going to have its own different flavor. And it depends on who the commanding officer is at that time.
Huh. Charles, does that sort of jibe with the way things work in the Navy too?
To a degree and point. So when I separated, we had this program called TAPS, which is Transitional Assistance Program. It was, like Derrick said, it was a class. It taught you how to do a resume. It taught you, all these things you had to do before you got out. but it was a week. It's not nearly enough time to acclimate from your military world to to the civilian world. Uh, we do so, and I kind of put it in reverse. If you look at all the time we spend, getting into the military through your time through recruitment and going to MEPS and going to boot camp and A school and C school, or or tech schools, and all this wonderful, cool training before you even hit to do your job. I mean, that could be 12, 18 months before you hit whatever your job skill is going to be. On the backside, you might get a week and then bye. This is where we fail spectacularly, our military members transitioning out of the service. There should be just as much time built into transitioning someone out as there is bringing them in. Because I will tell you, and I think Blythe said it a little earlier, in a lot of ways, you can make some transitional moves. There are some things that we're never going to deprogram. It's just fundamental. Like, I cannot be late. I just absolutely, I cannot do it. I show up 15 minutes ahead of time for a doctor's appointment, and I'll show up 15 minutes ahead for being at the B&B before it freaking opens. It might drives my wife nuts, but I mean, that's a real thing. I can't undo that. Like my hair, I cannot let it
Hire
grow.
Charles to be my alarm clock.
I'd be cautious on that one, but
Because boy, I struggle with that one.
Our haircuts are just, certain ways that we translate life, because it becomes so much ensconced in our very being of who we are. Some can reject it and totally, flip a script and not do it, but that's the exception more than the rule. But in order for us to really handle these situations, for veterans not to be homeless, to not go, I believe, and I've said this very often, no veteran should ever be unhoused, should never have to worry about trying to find a job or have to worry about, anything. We should take care of them because they were out there putting their life on the line for us. That is our most basic commitment to our military that we should be making as Americans. And, if you're going to ask these people to go and die for you, you better put everything into getting them back into the world when they come back. Um, this is something I'm starting to try and do in my professional life, where I'm trying to work with getting veterans into the water workforce, because that's just give them. We're facing a conundrum in the water workforce where we're having a lot of retirements. Veterans are a great fit. Problem is, they don't even know the job exists. Veterans don't know what to do with themselves when we get out of the service. I mean, where do we go? What do we do? Yes, okay, I was a cook, but by the time I got in the service, I hadn't seen the inside of a galley in 2.5, 3 years. I saw a field messing operation more than I ever want to see again. No offense, Derek, but I'm good on. Don't need to see that again. But how do you take all these things that we know how to do and translate to the civilian world, and then deal with all the medical stuff that we acquired because of our service? The busted joints, anxiety issues. Like I'm fighting depression, anxiety, and PTSD right now. Okay, I mean, and here I am. I'm 20 plus years out of service, and I'm just now starting to come to grips with these things. And and it's not easy. I'll be I could tell you stories, but but we have to acknowledge that need is real, because what our folks do in the military, your average civilian is never going to have that level of interaction or demand. So we've got to do better, and the VA needs to be enabled to do better in a lot of ways. I mean, because we short circuit ourselves so many freaking times over. It's infuriating. I'm sorry, I'm not digging on that soapbox. I'll stop off.
By all means, no. How has your VA experience been? Is the VA doing a good job taking care of you guys? I assume that they, like any other government program, are, struggling to have the resources they need given to them so they can take care of you. I mean, obviously, you got the shutdown and everything still going on, so there's that. But even when things are humming, are they humming the way they should?
Well, see, the VA is not affected by the shutdown. They are pre-funded for a year. So there's been really no effect that I have seen. Now, when it comes to going to get an appointment for a specialty clinic, that takes a while. Especially mental health. I mean, it took about a month for me to get in my most recent round of mental health. About a month to get in with a psychiatrist. It's going to be another month before I get to see a therapist. But the actual medical care is great. It's just getting into it that takes a while. The VA is ranked number 2 when it comes to multiple sclerosis care in the country, behind Mayo Clinic, I believe. Because there are so many veterans, it's disproportionate how many veterans have multiple sclerosis. And I'm one of those. And I mean, they pay $160,000 every 6 months just for me to have a round of chemotherapy for it to keep me walking. So, I mean, the VA is great at what it does, especially the Indianapolis VA. I cannot speak about any other large VA hospital across the country. I can only speak about Indianapolis. And
Yeah, and
Ruth
then
Bush is awesome.
are there enough places? Is there enough accessibility? You mentioned Indianapolis, and you're relatively close. Same with you, Charles. You're relatively close to a big city. What about those veterans that are out in rural areas, or out spread out throughout the state, throughout the country? Are they able to get their needs met?
Go ahead, Charles.
I'm sorry. It just depends. There are, like, we're lucky here in Hancock County. I mean, we have a clinic down in Shelbyville. We're close here, and we also have transport services. The DAV has a transport van that can take veterans to their appointments. That's actually one of those things that we have locally. But it also depends on how that's set up for each county, and does the county service officer have access to getting those transportation services arranged for. Um, but I would advocate for the idea that while the VA is great in the care they provide, it's the timing that I think really kind of screws up a lot of things, because if a veteran's going through a crisis situation, mental health crisis situation, minutes, days count. And, if you're in a depressive cycle, if you're, and again, I can speak to my own case, like for a few months there, I was in a real dark part of, facet of my life, and which was, I hadn't experienced that before. Now, granted, I didn't go to, the worst end of the spectrum, but it was getting to that point where I didn't care. Had I been able to get in and see and take that first step of saying, hey, I know I could call and I could get in tomorrow. Okay, that's great. But for someone like me, I don't use the VA because of that. The civilian system is what I'm using right now to facilitate my care, because scheduling is just a thing. I think if anything, there needs to be more accessibility, more centers where veterans can go and get seen and taken care of, have their things addressed, and it needs to be a very fundamental part of each state, county level responsibility, but each county, state may not have the resources to fund it. So the federal government has to play a part in that. It's just absolutely a part of it. So I believe that as part of we spend on the Department of Defense, a good chunk of that should go to care for our vets after they come out of service. They should be investing. I mean, that money should be. And I'm weird in the way I think about it, like Grant, but I mean that to me is a no-brainer. That should be absolutely what should be invested. I mean, yeah, I get it. We need new ships, we need new gear, and all that stuff. That's and I'm not against any of it. But we really have to kind of ask ourselves when we're spending more than the next 20 countries combined, what are we actually doing? You know, where are we responsibly putting those funds where they actually do the most good? And I would advocate no, we're not.
I mean, we have $5,000 hammers and $10,000 toilet seats.
See, I was going to go there, but I was saving that for you. So, no, you're not wrong. I mean, the purchase system for the military is freaking crazy. The fact that we pay contractors on time if they deliver late on a product, well, that's freaking it's absolutely asinine to me. Again, sorry that we can get on procurement and appropriations and all that stuff later. That could be a whole nother show.
Well, yeah, no, but it's true. You're speaking to, the military industrial complex kind of, nature of it, and the way business and the military, exist in this codependent relationship, right? And especially with what the Pentagon hasn't passed an audit and God knows how long, right? And I think you're getting to that. We've got maybe 20 minutes here left. One thing I wanted to make sure I asked. So, I remember back, lead up to the war to Iraq, or, kind of as it was just beginning, as things were going kind of poorly there for a while, you would hear if folks had criticism of the way things were going in the buildup, or even in the execution of the mission itself, you hear just support our troops, right? Like you don't question the mission, right? You don't criticize the way things are going. You don't criticize leadership. What does I feel like that's just a platitude, support our troops. What does actually supporting our troops look like, especially for a civilian like myself? I don't think accepting illegal and offensive wars is the best way to support our troops. How does a civilian best support our troops, I guess, is what I want to ask.
I would say the best way is hook up with a veterans group, be it VA, not VA, DERP, DVA, or DAV, the Legion, Marine Corps League,
VFW.
Yeah, VFW, any of those. Hook up with them and ask about sending care packages to our troops that are forward deployed. Become a pen pal to service members. Email pal. No one's writing letters anymore, usually. But yeah, be a pen pal to them. There are plenty of young kids in the service that has no one to write to them. So they are out there by themselves. And just a simple letter from home can change someone's day, or week, or month, or even their entire lives. I mean, a magazine from home could build the morale of an entire fire squad. So I mean, give what you can to current service members. They are doing a very thankless job right now. Yes, they are in one of the worst predicaments that our military's been in, but it is not their fault.
Right.
We cannot blame our service members for the reason they joined. Many people join, like I said earlier, because of socioeconomic issues. Some join because of patriotism. I mean, that was part of mine was, USA, rah, rah, rah. I
Yeah.
mean, I wanted to be a
We
naval
believe, yeah,
aviator when I was
believe,
6 years old because of Top Gun, the greatest single Navy recruitment video ever put out.
Yep,
but
absolutely.
but it's like people go in for different reasons, and it's usually for the betterment of our country or themselves. It is to make their lives better and escape what they're going through at home. So we cannot ever blame our service members for just doing a job. And we have to give what we can to them, especially when they come home broken,
Yeah.
bent, hating the world. We have to make sure that when we ask, how are you doing? Sit there and listen to the response. Because there are many of us out here. And I mean, I'll admit, I know where the mouthfeel of an M1911 is. I mean, I was at the lowest point in my entire life after I got out of the service because I was useless. I was broken. My entire career was gone. And I had nothing else to do. There are people out there going through that. And we have to be there for them. I mean, the best thing to do is show up.
And I would echo behind that, be there for their families while they're deployed as well. There are so many, single moms or single spouses that are dealing with childcare issues or, what you give for subsistence if you're not living on base housing is not enough. I mean, when you're getting paid, I remember back in the day, I thought $800 a paycheck was, holy crap, that was money. I thought that was big back in the day. Nowadays, nothing probably goes even less. But be there for their spouse. Be there for those that are left at home. And if they don't have a spouse, be there for their parents or find ways to support. The USO is a definite good one. Toys for Tots program,
Yes.
absolutely, especially this time of the year. There's the Navy Club does different drive, and there are so many ways that people can do more than just, hey, yeah, we're supporting you going blowing this thing up over here. Well, okay, but Scott, somebody said uh, at the beginning of this of not questioning the mission. I actually think it in some ways the civilian world actually has to question that mission more than what we do because our
You're
service
not allowed
members we don't. Hmm?
to. Right? Because you're
So,
not allowed to.
well, yeah, well, fair. I mean, we are instruments of political policy, right? We go out and we do the things that have to be done, right, wrong, or indifferent. It is what it is. But we have to hold our leadership, the people that are making these decisions, we have to hold them to account. We, the people, have to hold our leaders to a higher standard. That goes back to what we were talking about before. holding a president to a higher standard than just truthing off about something at 2 o'clock in the morning about, somebody's hair dyed, got spree or whatever. I don't know, whatever crap Nazi things he comes up with. You know, we have to be the ones that hold these people to account. We have to question it. Like if we would have questioned way back when we were going into Iraq, what the hell was the purpose of going into Iraq? Other than Daddy didn't finish it, so I'm going to.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I have a hard time buying it any other way. I mean, that was purely what I think that was about. That was a pride statement, and not the right type of pride. Sorry, that was maybe misconstrued. But but what I'm saying, but there was no reason for that. Afghanistan, okay, there was at least a cause or reason to find the ones that did damage to our homeland. Okay, I get that one, no sweat. However, how we went about it was probably a little ass backwards, but that it was what it was. But if we're not sitting there, you know, if we're just allowing these people to make these arbitrary decisions, like what's going on in Venezuela, I guarantee you, the service members that are sitting off the coast of Venezuela right now are literally asking themselves, "What the are we doing here?" I
Mhm.
mean, there is no military threat there. I'm sorry, no. And this narco terrorist horse hockey, I'm sorry, no, doesn't pass muster either. Um, there are a lot other bigger threats in the world to deal with than that. Okay. Um, but we need to be barking up these people's tree, our local politicians especially. Here, Ethan Lawson and Senator Crider, we need to be chewing up them and then getting into Todd and Shreve and well, although Shreve actually has to show up somewhere for somebody to actually be able to question him about something. Oh, sorry, that was that. Damn it, I got to work on that. But they got to show up. But I mean, here again, still, we need to be calling and beating down their doors and say, what the hell are you people doing? Why? Hold to account. We have to be asking those questions. We absolutely have to. And I think the veteran community should be the loudest ones out there screaming up one side, down another.
Yeah, they might listen to y'all on some of this stuff, where they won't listen to me. With our last several minutes here, before we have to wrap up for tonight, what did I miss? I'm sure there are things that I can't even begin to comprehend. What is the one thing that as a veteran you think we missed that we need to talk about before we wrap up here today, Derrick?
Um, the mental health of our veterans. Um, I mean, on my channel, I just released an episode 2 weeks ago about veterans' mental health, and it's not talked about enough in the right way. Like it's talked about, but not in the right way. Not from people that experience it all the time. Charles touched on it a little. 25 years dealing with the same stuff inside your head for 25 years. And the VA, while they are good at mental health when they're there, they're a band-aid. They don't really dive deep into the issue. And here in a couple months, I may say a little different depending on what my therapist does now. But my history with it is they put a band-aid on you and they send you back into the world. Which that doesn't always work. I mean, I don't know how many stories that I can listen to of a vet going in for mental health crisis, being turned away, going to the top of a VA hospital and jumping off,
Oh, jeez.
or offing themselves in the parking garage at the VA because they weren't seen during a mental health crisis. I mean, it used to be 22 a day. Now it's down to 17 a day. That's still not enough.
One is
It
too many,
is
right?
22 until none. We must get that number down to 0. I'm very much in touch with the Till Valhalla project. Love them. Wounded Warriors. 22 until none. 22 a day. These are great organizations that are trying to tackle the veteran mental health crisis that we have, and what we've always had. I mean, war has always caused PTSD. We called it shell shock. We called it cowardice. We called it everything but what it finally became, and that's PTSD. And now we have CPTSD, complex PTSD. Like, I don't know how much more complex you can get with PTSD, but it's there. So, yeah, that's me on my soapbox, and my advocacy work is veterans' mental health has to be forefront for everybody.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Charles, what did I miss here today?
I have to kind of tag on to Derrick's mental health being a big part of it. Be there, listen. Really, to be honest with you, a lot of vets just want to be heard, and acknowledged that what we are fighting. I mean, we may not have the external injuries, but what we carry inside of us is oftentimes much deeper and debilitating. Excuse me. But as part of that healing process, as part of that, I also feel like finding employment opportunities for our vets as they come out and finding their new mission. I think that absolutely has to be another big, because if you have a mission, the mental health becomes
Yes, yes. I was just
an
going to say these things
integration.
go together. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
If you have a purpose, yeah,
exactly. I mean, we life is never just a single topic here, there, here, there, here, there. All these things integrate into each other, and if you can give a mission and the healthcare and the educational benefits and listening and those resources, my God, think of how much further down the road we'd be to saving. We would be down to that 0 a day, I think, and I think we just need to invest in the right areas. And if we do those things, I think I think we'll make a lot of great positive impact.
I think so. Well, listen, thank you guys so much. Again, I know it's trite and I know it's a cliche and we talked about it, but yes, thank you for your service. But thank you for talking to me today, and thanks for sharing with us and being vulnerable. And I think that's the takeaway today is for all the way we treat the military and our soldiers and sailors and Marines is often is a number, as a nameless, faceless part of a unit. These are folks who are real human people with complex emotions and their own motivations for joining and for enlisting and their own complex internal lives. And I think that is what we have to keep in mind, is that they talk about breaking you down and making you part of the unit, but you can't beat the humanity out of people. And thank you guys for retaining your humanity, for sharing your humanity, for talking with us here today. It means a lot to me. So thank you.
And thanks for hosting us on this. I want to second that for Charles for coming on. Thank you for coming on here. Even though you are part of the Uber drivers, still got to love the Navy.
Hey, somebody's got to get you guys to where you got to go. But thank you all both for having me on tonight. I appreciate this, and this is a great thing. So thank you very much. Appreciate you.
All right, thanks so much, Charles. We appreciate you being here. Derrick, thank you for co-hosting this thing with me. I appreciate you dearly, and lots of big stuff for me and Derrick moving forward together. Well, more news to come. But in the meantime, just thank you. Thanks, Derrick. Thanks, Charles. Thank you to all our veterans for your service, and have a wonderful celebratory Veterans Day. You have earned it. So
Now
until
go out and
until
get your
next year.
Applebee's.
Get your Applebee's. Get you a Bourbon Street steak for me. All right. All right, everybody. Well, hey, thanks for being here. Thanks for spending some time with us today. And until the next time we do one of these, I'm Scott Aaron Rogers. Love each other, Indiana.